Ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Jeske, who's the Chief Commercial Officer of the USL, which starts a week on Saturday. How are you?
I'm doing well, Rob. Thank you guys for having me on the show.
Excited about the start of the season?
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really special year for us. A lot of big things happening with soccer in North America and therefore with USL. It's
where does it end, soccer? Everybody keeps telling me that, the bubble will burst. I'm thinking, not from where I'm sitting. I don't know about you, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no, look, I've been fortunate to be in this business for 20 years, almost all of those in North America. And the question of has gone from, will soccer survive in North America, which was really an actual question when I worked for the Kansas City Wizards selling tickets in 2002. And now I believe the question has shifted 180 degrees to how big can soccer be? How big can professional soccer be? How big can the national team business be? All our partners, CONCACAF, et cetera. The sky is the limit with the way we approach soccer, just with the North American context, but then obviously a global relevance.
The thing is, you're going to have no new owners because all your owners are over here buying our clubs.
Yeah, it's fair. The good thing, it seems, Rob, out of the pandemic, there doesn't seems to be a shortage of anyone that's willing to invest in soccer, whether you're a movie star or a billionaire in some other industry. The appetite to live out your childhood fantasy and be involved guiding a club seems to be alive and well for all of us.
And in the USL, are people looking to get into the game at that level?
Absolutely. We've got kind of two sources of I'll call it interested parties. We have certainly a burgeoning domestic market where we look for community-driven ownership and community-driven clubs that can be successful in their market. And that is one source. And the second one is this new, it's not really new now, but this idea of multi-club ownership, right? There is so much crossover globally. Many groups want to have not just 2 or 3, but 4 or 5 clubs in their portfolio. And so if you look at the United States as an option, certainly MLS is an option and it looks and feels one way, but then the USL with our 44 clubs on the men's side provides one that is very, very internationally focused and very aligned with kind of the global game.
Does it not bother or perturb potential USL owners or USL owners at the moment that there's no promotion to the MLS?
I don't think perturbed is the right word. So I think, Rob, the way I'd like to explain that in our point of view is one, the first thing is you have to understand that in the US and Canada, we have 380 million people with more buying power than Europe. It is a massive, massive market potential. You can throw Mexico in there as well, partners on the World Cup, and you just have a continent that is ready for the growth of soccer. And there still is plenty of growth upwards. So what our owners are focused on today is making sure that whether they're in Phoenix, Louisville, El Paso, Indianapolis, these are cities with 1, 2, 5 million people. Their opportunity is a ripe one. And we're focused on making sure our brand of soccer is one that they want to be involved in and be a part of. And how do we differentiate ourselves, not just domestically, but globally? That's really the level we're all playing on, is we're all playing in a global game. So when I look at our 44 clubs, 36 playing this year and about 8 confirmed on the expansion front, we need them to be great locally first. Then we can worry about how we play in the global game.
At the same time as well, on a purely basic level, soccer, as we'll call it, it's the easiest game to play. I mean, NFL, NBA, yeah, but are you beginning to bloody the noses of these more established sports, as it were?
When you say bloody the noses, I assume you mean do they see it as direct competition? Or they waking up to the idea of competition.
And also, just at grassroots, the interest and the growth of the game.
Yeah, listen, what I would say is this: is people are taking notice. Again, you go back and not us in the soccer world here at USL, but study after study, whether it's ESPN, whether it's a YouGov poll, all these different sources that are polling the American audience in the 12 to 35 year range, soccer is always their number one or two favorite sport. A lot of that has to do with what you said. Participation is very easy. I think that's the beauty of it, right? Is all you need is a ball and a small open space, and you can figure out the rest. You don't need some of the complicated things that other sports require. So I think, globally, North American is known as a very complex and developed sports market, and that is true. We've got a long way to grow before we're considered any kind of competition to what our brethren at the NFL or NBA might be doing at this point.
But at the same time, I think that's such an exciting thing, isn't it? That I saw an interview you did, and you didn't say we're 100 years behind, but you have got a lot of catching up to do in terms of the potential of the sport.
Yeah, we've got a lot of catching up to do. That's right. But I think all the pieces are there. If you look at the runway we have, right? I've already mentioned the fact that we've made it. Now there's no guardrails of, or let's call it roadblocks of, is soccer going to make it? Now, how big can it be? How can we have a couple different options? How can we use 2026? How can we use, let me start at the beginning. How can we use Copa America Centenario, or whatever they're calling it, Copa America 2024, as a springboard? There'll be the largest sporting event in the history of the world by number of teams and also by scale coming to our shores in 26. Potentially a FIFA Club World Cup, and then a much talked about Women's World Cup following that, all in the next 8 years. So it provides USL, our community-driven clubs, our partners, all a fantastic platform to ride the wave of soccer. And so that's what we're focused on doing.
Can you explain to people like myself, people watching, what about the expansion of the women's game as well, which is scheduled to go professional as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. So this is really interesting. We started with this idea, and it was really driven by a lot of our clubs that 3 or 4 years ago, even before the pandemic, started having the idea that in order to be a complete club, in order to represent their communities, and in order to deliver on the proposition of pro soccer, they wanted to have a women's team as well. So we started, with this internal conversation that a lot of our owners were driving, and they were saying, we're building soccer-specific stadiums. We're building brands. We're engaging the community. Why would we not look at the other 50% of the marketplace from a player standpoint? And I think that was extremely wise. And then I have to give a ton of credit to our president, Amanda Vandervoort, on the women's side, that has come in and guided this thing for us. What we're excited about in 24 is we're going to double the amount of opportunities for players on the women's front overnight across the U.S. And so that doesn't just mean players. It means coaches. It means administrators. It means fans. And so that I think is something that we all should be excited about on quite a few fronts.
Can I ask, what kind of crowds are you getting in the USL? What kind of attendances?
Yeah, great question. So many of our clubs average over 10,000 now as a normal week in, week out show rate, let's call it. I think what's perfect with that number, Rob, is the fact that we're building stadiums in the, call it 8 to 15,000 seat range, with the idea that they can be expanded, right? If you right size it today, but much like has happened in other parts of the world, as you have increased demand, you want to be able to add on to a stand or add an upper deck or whatever it may be. We've got full houses that are experiencing our game, not only live, but then they get to see it through our partners at ESPN. They get to see it globally, our partners with Sport 5 and their distribution channels. And it's a great chance for us to build, again, I'll keep saying it, the USL brand of soccer.
I guess as well as the whole thing expands from the MLS downwards into the USL, you're getting better players in the USL who are looking to feed into the MLS, where standards and entertainment for fans is just getting better.
Yeah, it's again, I'll go back to the global kind of nature of what we all do in football or soccer. We've heard, this isn't us saying it, but we've heard quite clearly throughout our region that USL is the third best league in CONCACAF. So you obviously have Liga MX and MLS that have been there for a long time, but USL is firmly positioned in third, and I would say, humbly, probably distancing ourselves from a lot of the pack. So once we become that option for global players, and we're being, that's being realized as we sit today. We're first tapping into the Caribbean talent pool, the Central American talent pool, and that will extend to the rest of Latin America as we continue to grow. And when you can earn a very good wage and have a proper training complex, a proper stadium, a proper coach to ply your trade, the sky's the limit. We now not only look at MLS as a transfer option, but we have clubs transferring directly to Europe. First division and second division clubs across Europe are buying directly from USL.
Well, that's I'm speaking to the temporary, the caretaker, whatever you want to call him, US manager Anthony Hudson a bit later on, and suddenly the pool you've got, especially if you look at the World Cup squad, I think it was like, I don't know, 7-9 from the MLS. Everybody's playing in the top leagues in Europe, aren't they, including the Premier League?
Yeah, they are. I think. Again, the way we approach it is we know that as we develop talent, they're going to move further afield. That should be every player's goal, right? To be on the best club that they can achieve regardless of the location, and one that works for them as well from the environment standpoint. So I think it's great to see a lot of the MLS transfers to Europe and European transfers back this direction. We certainly utilize it. Every one of our teams uses all 7 international spots that we have available. I think we had 86 countries represented in last year's campaign across I think last year we were about 38, 39 clubs across our USL Championship and the League One level right below it. So the global game is here. And like I said, agents and players are waking up to the idea that they can ply their trade in the USL ecosystem.
I know you touched on it a little bit earlier, but I guess the World Cup coming, I mean, you've almost got 4 years, haven't you? 4 years of focus, and as it gets nearer the day, I mean, it's a wonderful spotlight to have.
It's a great spotlight, and there's a couple things. One, we know the national team is qualified. Both the U.S., Canada, and Mexico are qualified. There's a nice piece already, right? I won't go back to 2018 and the shock that was us not making the World Cup, but that was a hard 8 years between 2014 and 2022 on the men's side for not having that inflection point moment. But what it really does for us is allows us to talk to the commercial marketplace and talk to fans about why USL is important, right? So when we sit down with Puma or Hisense or Konami, which was in their global video game, and talk about how do we build our communities up and how do we build the engagement in North America, 26 is already an inflection point that let's be honest, none of us can quite gauge how big it will be and how it will change all of our business. But what I can say with absolute certainty is that by the end of this decade, we're going to be in a different spot, probably unrecognizable to what soccer sits here in North America is in 2023. I firmly believe that. I'll tell you, we saw so much change between 2000 and 2020 in those 10 years. I think we'll see even more change in the single 10-year decade of 2020 to 2030. In terms of the acceleration. So what you see today is the tip of the iceberg.
San Antonio are the champions. Who wins it this year? Who wins your league?
As a league office employee, I'm not allowed to say that.
Come
and of course,
on. Come on, Cole, you can do it. We won't tell
We have
anybody.
global sports betting partners that certainly allow people to bet on that. What I'll tell you is this. We've had consistent success in places like Tampa, Louisville, San Diego, Phoenix. A lot of our teams that continue to win year in, year out. They have a great formula. They have a great club. They're community driven. And then they bring in some great coaching talent and then go mine the rest of the country and the globe to find those international stars and bring it in. It's not a complicated formula, but it is always impressive to me, those kinds of cities and clubs that can do it year over year.
Listen, we're coming to, Soccerex is coming to Miami in November. Are we going to see you there?
Absolutely. USL and Soccerex have been partners for a long time. What's important for us is that as America, large America, is thrust into the global game, and we're propelling that way, we want to make sure that our presidents, our owners, our key stakeholders understand how big this is. And for you and a lot of people, you've seen it for decades now. But I'm always amazed when I take the president of our team in Omaha or Albuquerque or Oakland to one of these Soccerex events for the first time, and they say, wow, I had no idea it was this big. Just because you see the number of people there and you see the important faces, names, logos, brands, etc. And let's be honest, it's also a fun 3 days for sure. We will be there.
We really look forward to meeting you in person. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate your time.